The boar lay dead, its bulk a testament to the tiger's strength. A single gruesome wound marked the kill. The forest floor was painted crimson. A musky scent, a mix of fear and blood, hung heavy in the air. It was a scene of primal savagery. Vladimir Marov, a seasoned hunter, stumbled upon the kill. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with a different kind of thrill. Greed. The boar was a prize, its tusks gleaming ivory promises of wealth. He knew the kill wasn't his, he knew the risks. But greed, a powerful beast itself, had sunk its claws into him. Ignoring the primal warnings echoing in his gut, Vladimir hoisted the boar onto his shoulders. The carcass was still warm, the blood staining his rough coat. He glanced around nervously, half expecting to see the tiger's eyes burning in the gathering darkness. The forest held its breath. With a final uneasy look over his shoulder, Vladimir turned and headed towards his cabin. He carried the boar, not as a hunter with respect for the fallen, but as a thief in the night. He had taken something that did not belong to him, and the forest, its ancient heart filled with rage, was watching. The trail to Vladimir's cabin was long and treacherous. The forest, once familiar and comforting, now felt alien and menacing. The shadows seemed to twist and writhe, taking on the shape of stalking predators. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, sent a jolt of fear through Vladimir's heart. He thought he saw a flash of movement in the undergrowth, a flicker of orange and black stripes. The tiger, his breath caught in his throat, his grip tightening on the rifle slung over his shoulder. He was being hunted. The feeling persisted, a prickling sensation on the back of his neck. He was being stalked, herded like prey. But every time he whirled around, rifle raised, there was nothing there. Just the endless, oppressive silence of the forest. Vladimir pressed on, his pace quickening. He just wanted to reach the sanctuary of his cabin, to feel safe again. But the forest held him in its grip, a silent, watchful presence. He had entered as a hunter, but now he was the one being hunted. The cabin, usually a welcome sight, loomed out of the darkness like a solitary sentinel. Smoke curled from its chimney, a beacon of warmth and safety. But to Vladimir it felt like a fragile haven in a sea of unseen eyes. He slammed the heavy wooden door shut behind him, the sound echoing through the silence of the cabin. The boar lay on the floor, its lifeless eyes staring accusingly up at him. Vladimir shivered, the weight of his transgression pressing down on him. The night was filled with strange sounds. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows and sending shivers down his spine. But there were other noises too. Low growls, barely audible, seemed to emanate from just beyond the walls. The tiger was close. Vladimir sat hunched by the fire, his rifle across his knees. Sleep wouldn't come. Fear, sharp and cold, gnawed at his insides. He had invited a predator into his home, a force of nature fueled by rage and vengeance, and he knew with chilling certainty that he couldn't outrun it forever. A deafening crash shattered the night. Vladimir scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The front door, splintered and broken, swung open, revealing a scene of utter chaos. The tiger stood framed in the doorway, its eyes burning with a cold primal fury. Its coat, a tapestry of orange and black, seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. It was a creature of immense power and grace, now twisted by rage into something monstrous. Vladimir raised his rifle, his finger tightening on the trigger. The shot echoed through the night, the muzzle flash momentarily blinding him. The beast roared, a sound that shook the very foundations of the cabin, but it didn't fall. The tiger lunged, its massive body hurtling across the room with terrifying speed. Vladimir barely had time to cry out before the beast was upon him, its claws tearing, its teeth sinking deep into his flesh. Section 5. A desperate plea. The forest floor was slick with blood and snow. Vladimir, his body a symphony of pain, struggled to his feet. The tiger, wounded but far from defeated, circled him, its eyes never leaving him for a moment. Adrenaline, raw and potent, surged through Vladimir's veins, masking the searing pain in his shoulder. He stumbled back, each breath a ragged gasp. His rifle lay useless on the ground, its wooden stock shattered. He was outmatched, outgunned, and utterly alone. "Ivan!" he screamed, his voice hoarse and desperate. Ivan, his closest neighbour, lived several miles away, their cabins connected by a narrow, winding path. It was a long shot, a desperate plea for salvation that was unlikely to be answered. The tiger snarled, a low rumble in its chest. It was toying with him, savouring his fear. Vladimir knew then that there would be no escape, no miraculous rescue. The forest, silent and indifferent, offered him no solace. Section 6. The Hunt for the Hunted. Days turned into an agonizing blur. Vladimir, driven by pain and fear, became a phantom, flitting through the dense undergrowth. The tiger, relentless in its pursuit, was always close behind, its presence a shadow that haunted his every waking moment. He scavenged for food, his stomach churning at the thought of eating the meager berries and roots he found. Sleep, when it came, was fitful and filled with nightmares. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw the tiger's burning gaze, felt the phantom pain of its claws. The forest, once his sanctuary, now felt like a prison. The trees, once familiar landmarks, now seemed to mock him with their indifference. He had become a hunted animal, his senses honed, his every instinct geared towards survival. But the tiger was always one step ahead, its senses keener, its knowledge of the forest far surpassing his own. The hunt continued, a macabre dance between predator and prey, with only one inevitable outcome. Section 7. Blood in the Snow. Yuri Trush, a bear of a man with a gruff exterior and a heart of gold, led the search party. Vladimir's disappearance had sent a ripple of fear through the small, isolated community. The forest, they all knew, could be a cruel and unforgiving mistress. They followed the trail of destruction, their boots crunching on the frozen ground. Broken branches, trampled undergrowth, and the occasional splatter of blood marked the tiger's path of vengeance. It was a chilling testament to the beast's power and fury. The air grew heavy with the metallic scent of blood. Yuri's hand instinctively went to the hunting knife strapped to his thigh. They were close now. He could feel it. The forest held its breath, the silence broken only by the crunch of their boots on the snow. Then they saw it, a clearing bathed in the pale light of the setting sun, and in the center, a scene that sent a collective shudder through the search party. Section 8. The Tiger's Trophy. Vladimir's remains lay scattered across the clearing, a gruesome tableau of torn flesh and shattered bones. His clothes, what was left of them, were ripped to shreds. The snow around him was stained crimson, the air thick with the metallic tang of blood. The tiger had left its mark on the kill, a chilling message for anyone who dared to challenge its dominion. The boar, picked clean and half buried in the snow, lay near Vladimir's body, a grim reminder of the transgression that had set this tragedy in motion. Yuri stared down at the remains of his friend, his stomach churning. He had seen death before. It was an inevitable part of life in this harsh and unforgiving land. But there was something different about this kill, something that spoke of a cold, calculated rage. The tiger had not simply killed Vladimir. It had made an example of him. It had sent a message, written in blood and bone, that echoed through the silent, watchful trees. Section 9. Nature's Reckoning. The forest once again belonged to the tiger. The echoes of the hunter's transgression had faded, absorbed by the endless cycle of life and death that played out beneath the canopy. The snow, stained crimson with Vladimir's blood, would soon be covered by a fresh blanket of white, concealing the evidence of the tiger's chilling revenge. The villagers, shaken but resigned, returned to their lives. They knew, as they always had, that the forest was a place of both beauty and brutality, a place where nature's laws reigned supreme, and any transgression, no matter how small, would be met with swift and merciless justice. The tiger, its hunger sated, its vengeance complete, melted back into the shadows. It was a phantom, a whisper in the wind, a creature of myth and legend, but its presence lingered, a constant reminder that in the wild, respect and balance were not mere suggestions, but the very foundations of survival. And in the silence of the forest, the trees whispered their ancient wisdom: take only what you need, respect the balance, for the tiger is always watching,